Welcome to episode 3 of our router table upgrade project. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and continue upgrading the top. As you saw in episode 2, we went ahead and machined this Kreg plate to fit into this table I have currently. We put some nice leveling screws into it to level the height. We put an access hole here for the crank handle to raise and lower the router. We drilled the mounting holes here to attach it to my porta cable router, plunge router, and everything is really good. I think we're all set. And the main reason that we liked this plate was because it had this twist out, twist in mechanism for these collar rings. So that was the big attraction here. So now that we got the plate modified, the last thing for us to do is go ahead and secure it to the table with these mounting screws. But we're not going to do that to this particular top, because in this episode we're going to replace this entire top with a nice butcher block top, 1.5 inch solid wood, and we're going to go the step-by-step process of doing that. So stick around and watch the episode. Purchased a butcher block made out of Hevea, which is a sustainable recyclable wood that's made from the rubber tree. So after the rubber is extracted many years from the tree, and the tree dies, they basically take the wood and they recycle it into these nice butcher blocks. So I went ahead and purchased myself one. I bought this at Lowe's. It's 25 inches wide by 4 feet long. So this could be my new tabletop for my router table. It's 1.5 inch thick. So we're going to go and start to cut and machine this for our project. So the first thing I want to do is to check for the flatness of this butcher block. So I just want to put a straight edge against it like this, and I see it's a little low here, a little high here, and that's consistent throughout the width. So it drops off. It looks like it kind of crowns in the middle here. Okay, not by much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And then this way, looks like it's pretty flat all the way. Looks like it's pretty flat this way. So I'm just going to flip it over and check it on the other side, and then take the best side and put that one up so we know what it gives us. And you can kind of feel it too. A little wavy right there. A little wavy right here. Let's flip this over. See what this side looks like. It dips a little bit at the end. Dips a little bit at the end. That's pretty flat. That's pretty flat. That's nice. That's pretty flat. Oh yeah. All right, this is definitely the flattest side. Here, this is gonna be our top side. Feels pretty good. A little wavy right here. Right here is a wave. Yeah, right here is a little dip right in here. So, but I think that's gonna be okay. So if we make it, so if this is the front of the table here, I think we should give us the best flatness when we run our pieces over it. Yeah, so this is going to be the front side right here. Yes. Yes. So right here. Right here, the little dip. Now I could cut it off. This dip I just could cut here. Just So I decided to check also the top for squareness, and it is a little bit out of square on the edges, as you can see my line there. So we're gonna have to trim that up anyways, there's one edge. And so I might as well cut this other edge too. And here's a square line I put on it. So, and this is right, the dip is right about here. So we're gonna cut that off and get rid of that dip and shorten the table from 48 to 42, which is fine. And so, but we're not gonna do that now because I'm gonna do that later. But for now, we wanna do 3 other things to this tabletop. One, I'm gonna put this combo Mida T-track in place. And of course, we'll cut this to the same length, whatever we cut the top to, the 42 inches. So we're gonna put this in this way with the T-track closest to the router, to the table insert where the router is gonna be. So and then we're gonna cut this in place, daddle that in place. Then we're gonna also here cut the opening for the insert plate that we just finished working on. And then we're gonna cut 2 slots here for the fence. So let's get started. Okay, so I placed the track onto the table top and I set my my square to 6 inches. So I basically set 6 inches off of each end of the track. And this agrees with my old table, which is a little narrower. And it was 19 inches from the back edge, and we ended up with that same 19 inches from the back edge to the front of the edge, even though this is a double track now. And I positioned this track so that the T track is going to be closest to the router bit because I just watching some videos, they all seem to have it in that direction. I don't think it matters that much, but this is for holding down feathers boards and other things on the smaller, you know, T-bolt type 1/4 inch bolt head accessories. But this is where we want to do it. This is where we want to dado it in place. So now that we have it set, I'm just going to trace the lines on both sides of it, so I know exactly where it's going to go. And I'm going to go ahead and use a router setup here with a guide template to actually to cut this. Okay. So let's get out the dimensions of the dado we're going to cut. So I'm going to use my calipers here. And to get the width, we're going to look at, let me see, 1 3/4 wide. And high, it's going to be half inch deep on the dado. I set the router up with a 1/2 inch guide bushing and a 3/8 inch straight cutting bit, as you can see there. I set up 2 guides. One, I had a steel guide, and I clamped them along the lines of the track. And then I made a wood guide there. So the idea is to run this through this guide, this slot here, and the guide bushing here will then register against these edges. And the offset now I gotta think about is with a 1/2 inch bushing, as my table shows, my offset table here. 1/2 inch bushing with a 3/8 bit, I'm gonna end up with an offset of about 0.062 inches, which is a little bit less than 1/16 of an inch. So I've kind of compensated for that by moving the guides over just so I can see the line on each side. And what's nice about this is that this first 6 inches here before the cut, this is the piece we're going to cut off because of this dip right here. So now we can kind of practice here, see how it works, and once we get it good, then we can run the whole length of the piece down the side. I set the motor speed to maximum, 22,000 RPMs. I set the depth to be a 1/2 inch deep into this tabletop, and I also am going to do a stepped process here where I'm going to do the cuts in 1/4 inch depths. So we're going to start with the highest one and work our way down and see how that comes out. I also added a vacuum hose here for the dust control. And I put a vacuum plate on top so that all the chips should be evacuated from this chamber into my vacuum system. Okay, so it's a little tight. Actually, it's a lot tight, so it's not going to fit in here, but that's okay. It's just a test piece. Remember, this is going to be cut off anyways. So still have to go widen this some more. And I figured out how much wider I have to make it by measuring this this width here of the dado I made with the original fence in the original positions. So, and then which came out to be about 1.672 inches. And then what I did was I then subtracted that from the full width of the track, which is 176. And the difference was about 0.09 inches. So about 0.10 of an inch difference. So I add that back to the track width that I'm trying to get to, and that came up with a 1.853. So I went ahead and then I just readjusted. I left this guide the same. I moved this one out to give me the 1.853 on both ends, and now this should give me a very precise, accurate cut to fit the track nicely. Let's give it a try. Well, with that adjustment, we are just about perfect. So this track now fits right in here like that, with no extra play. So we're going to go ahead and do the whole thing now. Okay, we're all set. Came out really nice and tight. Perfect height. And look at that, huh? That's a nice dado with a router. And it really is perfectly fit. Not too tight, not too loose. Nice, even tabletop. Okay. Dado cut. We're going to now move on to cutting the opening here in the table for the table insert, the router table insert. So we're going to start off that effort with basically making a template. And what we're going to do is I went ahead and I took a couple of pieces of paneling, old paneling I had, and I sandwiched them together with some glue on them, and now they're glued up. So now we're just going to true this up. We're going to straighten the edges, square this piece, and then we're going to start to mark out the template on it. So I'm going to use my crosscut sled to make these corners exactly 90 degrees, nice and square, and then we're going to trace out the template. So here's the template, and here's the insert plate. So what I'm going to do is before I trace this out on the template, the outline of it, I'm going to put a layer of masking tape around the edge. And this masking tape is going to be just enough clearance to make it so that it goes in easy and comes out. We don't want it to be a super tight fit because then we won't be able to get it out. So we're just going to wrap this edge with one layer of masking tape, and then we're going to trace it. So I marked out the centers on the template with my lines here, and then I placed the insert right in the center point, and then I just squared it to one of the edges because the template's all squared. So now I'm just going to go around and trace out the outline of the template. As you see, this one side of tape applied, one layer, sorry. Make sure it's nice and I drilled 4 1-inch holes in each of the corners, being careful to leave the line on. We're going to go ahead and use our jigsaw with a fine-tooth blade, and we're going to cut out between the holes along the line, but leaving the line on, and then we're going to do a finish sanding with the drum sander to get it right on the line, and that should be a perfect template. So it's sanded. It looks like a really nice fit here all the way around. It came out really good for the template. With the template finished, I'm going to locate it on the tabletop. So how I did that was I basically measured off of this dado cut here where the combo T-track is going to be. I went up 1.5 inches away from that, so I have a nice some counter space there, some tabletop between the insert and the track. And it's kind of arbitrary. I chose 1.5 inches on that measurement. My old table was 1.25, so I went a little bit more. So based on that, I then located this way based on the distance of the length of the top, which I measured off of the cut line that we haven't yet cut, but we will. The end of the top, edge of the top to the square line here. And that dimension turned out to be 42 inches. I split it in half and I aligned it right here. So I'm right in the middle of that. And I get about 9.5 inches on each side of countertop of where the insert's going to be located. And with the template positioned, I then used 4 long reach vice grip pliers, clamps to hold the template in place. And what I did was I then used the opening here and I marked inside the opening 9/16 in a gauge. Using a gauge, I marked a ledge that was 9/16 inch in from all the sides. And then I drew triangles with 2-inch legs in each corner, okay? And then I put the plate back in. I'm going to go ahead and pilot drill just to mark the locations of these holes. With the pilot holes drilled just about 1/4 inch into the tabletop, I'm going to place back the cutout portion of the centerpiece that you saw earlier with the holes drilled. Remember, I drilled these starting holes in the corners. And I'm going to use my drill press jig to ensure I get a nice straight hole. And I'm going to drill down through the material. So using the jig again, I'm going to drill holes around the perimeter of the center of the opening, which is we're going to cut out before we're going to router the ledge and clean it up. So I'm going to go around and in each one of the intersections here, because this is 1.5 inch material, I'm going to drill a hole and then run a jigsaw and connect the holes and allow this center portion of the material to drop out. Okay, well there it is cut out. Here's the block, pretty thick. And now we're going to go and start our routering of the ledge here around all the sides. So I set up my router here with a patent bit with a bearing on top. It's a 1/2 inch diameter bit. And what it's going to do is I'm going to run this router now, the bearing against this guide, the template, and it's going to router out this surface here down to, I have set it to a depth of 3/8 of an inch, a little bit over to give me a little play in case I need it, with the adjustment legs on the plate. So we're going to go around here and remove this material down to about 3/8 of an inch. Okay, here it is. There's your ledge. That's where the plate's going to sit. And I'm just going to remove the template now and see how things fit. Okay, so here's the plate. There's the ledge. So it fits really nice. I deviated a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't know, maybe the template wasn't perfect, but I think it came out really good. I mean, it fits really nice, and it's nice and flush. And I can always adjust the height screws here that we put in to get it perfect, but I think it's... So I used a little wood filler here to smooth out this edge. I don't know what happened. I think maybe the router dug into the template a little bit, but I used some wood filler, and I'm just gonna sand it, lightly sand it. Look at a nice straight edge here. And I also have a little gouge here, which we're gonna fix with a sanding block like this, and get that edge straight. Now with this outside edge finished quite nicely, we are now going to run, we're going to clean up the inside of this cut here. So what I did was I set I put in a 1 3/8" bushing here, and I put in a 1/4 inch up cut spiral bit here, as you can see. And we're going to, first we're going to do these straight cuts here that just run along the edge of the top edge of the counter. Okay, so I decided to use guides on the corners. I want some nice uniform geometrical cuts here. So what I did was I took the straight cuts, as you see here. I did them already. So I marked off 2.5 inches from the inside of each of the corners. And then what I did was I used my adjustable square, set to 45 degrees like this. And I then basically lined up the 2.5 inch mark to the base of the square, as you see. And then I basically offset it by 2.5 inches, this line here, because that is the distance from the flat side of this router base to the edge of the bit. So we just set that offset. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some double-sided tape. As you see here, I'm going to stick these to the top all the way around like this. And then we're going to use these as our guides like that. And we're going to do the corners. And then we're going to also continue on the straight edges. So this should be able to allow the router to go all the way around and preserve those corners. Okay, so we did a nice job there cleaning that up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and cut off this remaining 1/8 inch material. The bit wasn't long enough. This is a 1.5 top, so I could only get it down to about that far. So now we're going to just flip it over and just run a straight cutting bit with a ball bearing, a guide bearing on it, and clean that off. I went ahead and chucked in a nice brand new 3/4 inch trim bit with extra long shaft. So this can easily do 2 inch cutting length. So I set it to run along the bearing to run along the bottom edge here, and it's just going to trim off this final leftover piece of material. So to locate the slots I'm going to cut into the tabletop to secure the fence, I went out and I bought this nice Rockler fence here. It's a 32 inch long fence. It has a nice micro adjusting feature here, so you can lock it in place with these T-bolts or carriage bolts, and these knobs will lock it in place. And then there's a fine adjustment over here. I can adjust it back and forward. So I like that feature, and so we're going to use this fence. And to do that, we're going to now figure out where to cut the slots that go back, forward and back, into the table to secure these T-bolts, which are going to come in up from the underside and be in a rabbit groove on the underside of the table. And I'll get a very good securing anchor on both sides of the fence doing that. And we don't have to worry about the fence moving like I had my old table. So to do that, I move the fence all the way up to the most forward position it could ever be in. I align the center point of the insert plate right on in the center point of the fence, and then I traced out these slots here on both sides onto the tabletop, so I know where the slots, you know, the range of the slot, and then we're going to pick the center point of that. And then I moved it all the way back here, keeping the alignment with the center point of the insert, and I moved it back until I got to the edge of the table, which is right about where the dust collector port hangs over the table, and then I drew 2 more slots back here. So now that I have these slots positioned, I'm going to draw a center point through them, and then make a template for them, and then cut these slots, which are going to be 5/16 inch in width from the most back position to the most forward position. And I made a template. Basically, the template is going to allow me to flip the board over and router out an enlarged space on the bottom so that I can accept the T-bolt or the head of the carriage bolt. And then it's going to reduce down in diameter to the 5/16 diameter slot with that slot. And it's going to start off with a release hole 7/8 in diameter. So I went ahead and I traced those dimensions out on the template. I also increased the dimensions by a 32nd of an inch because of, I'll show you the offset and the bits I'm going to use. So I made them a little bit bigger, and now we're going to go ahead and cut this out, drill it and cut it out with my drill press and my jigsaw. So what I'm going to do is, the way I designed this template to work, I'm going to router it for the back side. So here's the countertop. Here is the markings of the slot with the release hole here, as we discussed earlier. So I basically just drew the center line around the corner here through to the back side. And what I'm going to do is put this template right on the center line that I just drew there, and we're going to double side tape it, and then we're going to use it as a guide. With the template now attached to the table with double-sided tape, I am ready to router the first 1/4 inch recess, and this is for the head of the carriage bolts or the T-bolts. So this is not the actual. This is wider than the width of the actual slot through the top. So I've configured my router with a 5/16 bushing. And it's going to ride right inside this template, and I put a 1/4 inch spiral bit into it, so that gives me the 32nd of an inch offset, and that's why this template is bigger than the true dimensions by 32nd of an inch. So let's go ahead and router it. So with this one done, at least the first step, I move the template over to the next one. Right here, repositioned it, and we're going to do this one. Okay, now we're going to do the second pass on the router. Now what I did is I swapped out the bushing to be a 5/8 bushing that I had to tape to get it to 11/16 diameter, because I don't have 11/16 bushing. But I cut the shoulder back to be about 3/8 tall. And how I knew to do all that sizing is I kind of did the calculations, which weren't that straightforward, but you see here I have here's the 5/16 opening that goes right through the top, but here is the relief right here with the shoulder, 7/32 each side. So I calculated with some geometry that if I did the bigger hole first and I used the correct offset to get 7/32 offset, it would have to be an 11/16 bushing guide with a 1/4 inch bit. So as you saw me use my offset table before to figure that out. So now I'm going to run the router, the bushing along this ledge here we just routed, and then that will give me the 5/16 in the middle like we want for the bolts. So I'm going to progressively go down 1/8 inch depths until I get all the way to the bottom of the bit. And then it's just about get me to the top, almost to the top of this, through the thickness of the top. So, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to clean it up on the other side. Okay, well that came out pretty good. I'm not all the way through on the slot because the bit ran out of length. So I'm going to drill a hole in the back and through this bottom here, and then come in from the other side with a just a pattern bit or a flush trim, and just trim out that last 1/4 inch right there. But the other thing I want to do before I do that is make this release hole. This hole is supposed to be able to have the whole entire head go through to the top. So what I'm going to do is I chuck back. I reinstalled the 5/16 inch bushing here and kept the same bit, 1/4 inch spiral. And this is going to get me with a 32nd of an inch of this opening here. And then that should be very close to what we need. Okay, with the slots cut just about all the way through, I think I might have another, maybe as much as 1/4 inch to go. But because the depth is so deep here, 1.5 inch top, I'm just going to drill a couple of holes. That's going to break through the face of it, and then I'm going to flip it over and just clean it up with a pattern bit and finish the job. Okay, with the slots cut through now, I'm just going to use some drum sanders. We're just going to clean up the sides, and that should be it. So the top is just about done. I'm just going to now ease the edges on all the ends and the side, front and back with a 1/4 inch round over and a trim router. And then I'm going to sand it. Now we're ready for the finish of the countertop. So here it is. It's been finish sanded. All the edges are eased, and I dry tacked it with a cloth of paint thinner. So this is the piece we're going to do. What we're going to spray it with is this polyurethane, fast drying, oil base. I like using this Minwax product. It's a satin finish. So I get the spray gun set up here with this is my fine spray gun. It's a 1.3 millimeter nozzle, and I have didn't thin this out at all because this is usually very thin material. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray it right out of the can. Okay, so we're going to start with it. There's the finished top, all done. It came out really nice. I ended up putting on 3 coats of poly on the top, 2 coats on the bottom. Everything's been sealed, as you saw me spraying the piece. In between coats, I used a in between coat sanding pad, polishing pad, which is like a 00 fine when you compare it to like a steel wool pad. And then at the top, the final coat, I went over with a quadruple 0 fine. So just take off any minor imperfections, smooth it down. It's like a nice smooth finish, a nice satin finish. So the next step to do is to put on the hardware, and we're going to go ahead and do that now. So here's our T-track here that I spray painted black. Hopefully the finish will be nice and durable so it won't chip. But if this is the T-track, I cut it to the length of the top. So we're just going to put that right in place like this. Fits nice, tightly. Good. We'll just tap it a little bit with a hammer to get it nice and squared up. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and use our hinge bit, self-centering hinge bit, to go ahead and drill holes into these pre-drilled holes into the plate and to the track. We're going to go ahead and use these nice number 6 by 3/4 inch wood screws to secure it. And then for these 4 mounting holes for the insert plate, we're going to go ahead and put these inserts in that have the 1/4 inch 20 mechanical thread on the inside. We're gonna go ahead and put them right in here. So just like that. So I had some difficulty with the threaded inserts, these barrel type. Well, the problem was that I couldn't get the alignment to be good enough so that the screws would screw in easily from the top. These screws here, they were just too stiff. I couldn't get them aligned right. So I took them out, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to use these T-nuts that come in from the back. And what's nice about these is that you can put the screw in, the mounting screw, and just thread them on, and they will center themselves in the hole so that it aligns properly every time, like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these 4 on here, and then just screw them from the top, and these teeth will sink into the bottom of the countertop, as you see there, and lock them into place. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and instead of the barrel ones. And I will put a little bit of super glue on the bottom of these so they don't come out, just in case over time they don't fall out. So with the bottom of the T-nuts now centered in the hole, I'm just going to go ahead and tighten these screws so that they will go up through the hole and ensure this is a much better design because they self-center in the hole, and you can be assured that once they're screwed in, you'll get a perfect fit every time. Okay, so now with these screws in place, you're just going to adjust the height of this insert to the table. So we're going to use our nice adjusting screws, set screws that we put in earlier. So we're just going to crank them up a little bit until they're nice and even there. That's good. Okay, just tighten these up now, and we're all set. And there you go. All right, good. Here's the finished top. I'm very pleased with the way it came out. I installed it on my current router table cabinet. So we're going to upgrade that in the next video. That's the last episode. But here's the top. I'm very happy with it. Here's the T-track, the combo track here I put in. Here's the Rockler fence all set up into the nice slots I made. Very securely anchors it to the table. Here's a nice vacuum port. And this is the micro adjustment feature that I was talking to you about. So once you set this with these large knobs into the first position like this, then you can go ahead and adjust it with this adjusting knob here in the back, and I can just turn this forward and back, and as you see, that little gauge there moves back and forth, so you can do very fine adjustments now, and then you can lock that in place with this knob. So the fence has a hinge, which I really liked about this fence. It has a hinge feature here. So right here is the hinge, and you can see that it just hinges out on one side to give you that fine micro adjustment. Very happy with it. Here's the crank handle that you can see the bit come up and down now as you crank the handle. So it's a nice top adjustable feature that I've always wanted. I have the nice twist out rings I talked about. And remember how I was saying that I didn't want this hole to be covered by the fence? So look at this. That's exactly what I wanted. I can move this fence up pretty close and still have this hole exposed like this. So I'm pretty happy with that. Here is the guide that comes with the Rockler plate. So you can go ahead and put this in place and set it as you like. So very happy. I like the finish. And that completes this episode. So thanks for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.